why you're here. There's COVID, you know. There's COVID. Cases of Omicron, I'm sorry to tell you, are soaring, but I do have some good news. There's been a medical breakthrough. Researchers at Oregon State University believe they may have found a natural way to ward off the virus, and that natural way is cannabis. That's right. Once again, it's cannabis. According to this study, cannabis compounds can prevent COVID-19 from infecting our cells. Cannabis compound, also what Willie Nelson calls his house. But this would be interesting. You know, all this time we've been listening to the CDC, we should have been eating CBD. And you know, it's funny. All these crazy cures, I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. The ivermectin, the horse dewormer, bleach, and then somebody says marijuana prevents COVID. I'm like, oh, really? Well, do tell. This Omicron has created a real mess. Most students are allowed back in school right now, but there aren't enough teachers to teach them because so many teachers have been getting sick and calling in sick, and as a result, schools are asking parents to come in to be substitutes because school isn't embarrassing enough for kids already. Now you have your mom in there teaching your friends sex ed. The banana is the penis, and I don't get that. I mean, if your parents are going to be your teachers, why not just stay home? You don't have to go to school. And the other thing is, you know, that kind of parent who volunteers to do this, that's also the kind of parent who does this.
I do not want my children to learn about anal sex in middle school. I've never had anal sex. I don't want to have anal sex. I don't want my kids having anal sex.
Right. Mrs. Macon, I have to go to the bathroom now. She really puts the dumb in sodomy. But here's an idea, and go with me on this. But listen, what if we just let the kids run wild? Drop them off at an abandoned Blockbuster video store and let them go nuts. It's worth a shot, right? COVID is also... Thank you for that tepid applause. United Airlines yesterday announced that 3,000 of their employees tested positive. The only airline with a higher positivity rate than United right now is recirculated air. The only airline where you can get COVID from yourself. But our neighbors to the north have a plan now, which is interesting, to get shots and more arms. Unvaccinated patients in Canada are taking up half the beds in intensive care. So the Premier of Quebec says they're going to start taxing people who refuse to get vaxxed. You'll have to pay if you don't get... Can you imagine what would happen here if Joe Biden announced that? Rand Paul's tiny little perm would shoot off like a bottle rocket. I mentioned last night that CDC is telling Americans not to travel to Canada. It is a level 4 COVID risk, which is the highest level. And today, the Canadian government fired back with some travel recommendations of their own for us.
Canada, land of breathtaking natural beauty, vibrant cities, and the friendliest people on Earth. Which is why we're kindly asking you to please stay the out. Enjoy the awesome power of Niagara Falls from your own damn side. You've got Rocky Mountains too, you know. Go stare at those instead. There's never been a better time to not come to Canada. Think of us as Canada. We need a break right now, eh? But we'll still send you syrup and the best hockey players and the occasional Sutherland. And don't call our bluff. We'll build a gosh darn wall if we have to. Then you'll be sorry. You folks can come on back when you start using common sense and the metric system. Canada, waiting to be discovered. Once you get your together.
I'm Wayne Gretzky, and I approve this message.
Wayne Gretzky?
Oh, you know, French really is such a romantic language. Rolls so beautifully off the tongue. Another virus that's on the rise is that big orange golfer who used to run the country. Our crazy ex-president has been making the interview rounds. He stopped by OAN last night to vax poetic, to slam Joe Biden, and even take shots at some of his fellow Republicans.
Do you reconsider your push for it, or what's your view now on the vaccine in general?
Well, I've taken it. I've had the booster. Many politicians, I watched a couple of politicians.
Wait, hold on a second. What's going on with his hair? I mean, it's... Did he rub a balloon on his head before the interview? Sorry, go ahead.
Many politicians, I watched a couple of politicians being interviewed, and one of the questions was, did you get the booster? Because they had the vaccine. And they're answering it like, in other words, the answer is yes, but they don't want to say it. Because they're gutless. You got to say it. Whether you had it or not, say it.
Gutless. Gee, I wonder who he's talking about.
Have you gotten the booster?
So I've done whatever I did, the normal shot, and that at the end of the day is people's individual decisions about what they want to do.
That's Ron DeSantis. He's the governor of Florida. A lot of people believe he will run for president to try to get the Republican nomination. You know that makes Trump crazy. Trump desperately wants credit for developing the vaccine because he should want credit, but the dummies who follow him boo him when he said he got the vaccine. And then you have characters like DeSantis who wants to have it both ways. He obviously got the booster, but he doesn't want to admit he got it, which makes Trump, who did admit it, look like a wuss to the gators and chewing tobacco crowd. I mean, imagine being called Gutless by Captain Bone Spurs. This is like being called Tubby by the 1,000-pound sisters. And anyway, I should mention, I promised that if we ever aired Trump on television going forward, I would only show him nude. And since I'm a man of my word, here's the rest of that interview.
Well, I mean, they do ask the question. I've given this answer so many times. I'll be announcing it fairly soon, and I think people are going to be very happy with my answer. Our country is going to hell.
And we have a leader to take us there. This is good. I don't know if you have you been following the legal battle between Novak Djokovic and the Australian government? Djokovic is unvaccinated. He's the #1 ranked player in the world. He's waiting to find out if he'll be allowed to play in the Australian Open next week, and he's in Australia, or if he'll be deported back to Serbia. He violated Australia's vaccine mandate, and he falsified his travel documents. And on top of that, he's admitted to appearing at several events last month shortly after testing positive. It's a very big story down under, one that led to this exchange on the TV news where these anchors were apparently unaware they were on the air.
Whatever way you look at it, Novak Djokovic is a lying, sneaky.
He's an asshole.
Like, whatever way you look at it, it's unfortunate that everybody else stuffed up around him.
That's it. I mean, he's
Like, to go out when you know you're COVID positive. Well, I don't think he was even COVID positive. I don't think that form is true.
He got a excuse and then fell over his own lies. Which is what happens, right?
Yeah.
Why isn't all the news like that? I would watch the news every day. I think he's a Now let's check in with Ron in the Channel 9 Weather Center. In other international news, this is a very strange story. I feel like this should be like the big story today, but somehow it's not. Pope Francis, you know that guy? Okay. The Pope was spotted in Rome last night doing something no Pope, to my knowledge, has ever done before.
Leader of the Catholic Church making an unannounced stop of all places at a record shop. Take a look. A surprised Vatican reporter spotted the Pope coming out of a downtown shop and turns out with a CD in his hand.
CD? The Pope is at a record shop buying a CD. Somebody please get the Pope a Spotify account. That's ridiculous. Can you imagine him loading up that 6-disc CD changer in the Pope mobile? Put that video back up. Let's see if we can see what CD. Oh, Gangnam Style. How very 2000 and late. There are a lot of do my own researchers going right now, and not just when it comes to COVID. One common result of the pandemic is that people are taking healthcare into their own hands. Doctors and hospitals have been so overwhelmed, it could take like a month to get an appointment, so people are treating themselves at home, so much so there's a name for it now. They're calling it do-it-yourself healthcare, and they're selling products. There's a home test now to screen for colon cancer. You collect your own stool sample, and you ship it to the lab from your house, which is a good reminder to tip your mailman at Christmas time. And it's easy to do. If you have a stool sample, you collect it. There are several locations you can send it to or drop it off. They're all listed right here. One in Central Texas, if you're in Texas, North Texas, South Central Texas, even Washington, D.C. Write the word TED on it. They will love to. Just make sure he knows it's not Tucker Carlson so he doesn't eat it, okay? But with so many Americans playing doctor, we wanted to put their knowledge of human anatomy to the test, specifically the female human anatomy. So we went on the street, we asked men what they know about women's bodies, and this is what we learned.
Do most women have one uterus or two?
2.
How many fallopian tubes do women have?
1.
Do most women have 1 uterus or 2?
2.
How many fallopian tubes do women have?
1.
How many fallopian tubes does the average lady have?
1.
How many fallopian tubes do women have?
Fallopian tubes? I'll say, and I know I'm gonna be way off. I'm just gonna say 4.
How many ovaries does a woman have?
Jeez. Ovaries, 1.
How many ovaries does a woman have?
6.
What part of the body does a mammogram examine?
Ooh, the lower half.
Do you want to point like what?
Like about there.
What does PMS stand for?
Post-mental syndrome. Why are you laughing?
And how often does that happen?
Like once a year at least.
Where's the cervix?
There.
And the vagina.
Oh man, okay. You're asking me trick questions. I don't know if it goes in this way or up through here, but it's either here or here.
And the cervix?
Is it on there? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it must be this part.
Do you want to just point to the stuff that you know?
That's like a baby. I know that belly fat. She's thick.
What about the urethra?
Urethra? That's that.
Where's the anus?
Oh, I think that's it. That looks like an anus. I don't know.
Anything you know on here, just tell us.
The stomach?
Do you know what this is?
Is this the mammogram device?
Okay, what about this thing?
Pap smear?
How about this guy?
Is it an IUD?
Do you know what this instrument is?
No, like not even in German, no.
What do you think it should be called in German?
Like a something opener.
How do you say vagina opener in German?
We would call it a Scheidenöffner. Scheidenöffner, yeah.
Where's the cervix?
Right there.
I'm so mortified.
Where does a baby go?
In there?
Oh, wow.
And ma'am, what do you do for a living?
I'm a gynecologist. I'm apparently not a very good educator at home for my husband.
Do you know what OBGYN stands for?
Obstetrician. A bunch of words I can't say. Gynecologist.
It's just my profession. It's no biggie.
Right.
And real quick, will you just point to the
So now we know. If you like that video, click subscribe and we'll be together until one of us dies.